Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big questions being raised over the past 24 hours as to the future of the Call of Duty League. Activision admitting there are some concerns with the way their leagues are currently going, and they will need to take some corrective action going forwards. What does this mean for the future of the CDL? Loads of reaction to it, especially from Scump and Hecz, as you might well imagine. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, just wanted to share some, well, this is interesting to say the very least. This is what JP Krez has asked an AI to create standoff in the theme of Raid from Black Ops 2. Looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. I honestly wonder if you gave an AI that could do this, just the blueprints, let's say the map overviews to all of Treyarch's maps from Black Ops 2, could it produce a better map than Infinity Ward has managed in the last 5 years? Probably yes. This is also the AI's attempt at making hydroelectric frozen mode, which is pretty interesting as well. So this is the latest masterpiece that Infinity Ward have come up with, and this, as far as I can tell, is literally vacant from COD 4, but it's a little bit different because we've got these circular things, whereas usually this is a shipping crate. Apparently they've just ripped this from the campaign, but they're basically just bringing another vacant remake into the game. So that's the next map to arrive, and another classic, circumstance where they don't even make anything new. I mean, this has got to be vacant, right? I can't imagine a world in which it's not. But in fairness, right, vacant was a pretty good map in COD 4, at least for search and destroy. So maybe it's going to be viable here. I'm not so convinced, but it's certainly not going to arrive from now to the end of the season, right? It's going to be something that might happen next year, right? And hopefully we do get a massive map overhaul for next year with any luck. Also, I've got to mention this, right, because this is hilarious. Last night when Doug was calling out Temp and the Vegas guys for failing to plant the bomb in that round 11 scenario against OpTic, he says it's so easy, just press square, just plant the bomb type thing. And Clay says, yes Doug, tell us all about the fundamentals when I saw you peak bomb at 8 seconds left to get clutched on in a match literally yesterday. So fantastic response, I've got to say, from Clay, and you can understand it, right, because Doug is, obviously he's good at planting the bomb, but other things Doug isn't maybe quite so proficient at, and Clayster, understandably frustrated with their defeat, is coming back at Doug, and it's kind of, all in good jest. And I thought it was a good response from Doug, really. It was like, you know what, fair enough, I'm not even going to respond, like, you got me on that one. Now, the clip he's referring to is this moment here, because it's Doug and Snoopy in a 1 versus 2 here in challenges, and there's 11 seconds left on the clock, so Snoopy decides to just run out and die. Now, there's no way in the world that Mock should win this round. There's literally 10 seconds on the clock. He's got to kill 2 people and defuse the bomb. Snoopy comes in for the chow, and look, fair enough. Fundamentally, he wanted to go and check the bomb, really, because it's planted on Doug's side. Doug should have been the one checking the bomb, right? And then Mock comes up here. There's 8.2 seconds or 8.7 seconds on the clock. Doug peeks, dies, and Mock gets the defuse. Like, that's got to be one of the worst plays I've ever seen in COD history, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what the comms were. Doug probably should have been the one peeking anyway to check that if it was being defused, and then once Snoopy dies, you just hide for literally 3 seconds and you've guaranteed the round win. So Doug loses that, and obviously it's an indefensible play, right? So Doug's like, look, fair enough, Clay. Quick mention as well of what's happening with Toronto, because they took down the victory last night, impressively so, against Seattle Surge, and that qualifies them for the World Championships. They're officially now the 4th team to qualify. I mean, look, those are the top 4 teams in the game. FaZe, OpTic, Thieves, Toronto, they're now all qualified for the World Championship. That's a guarantee. The teams behind them, the Subliners, the Surge, you'd imagine as well, they'll be there sooner rather than later, but the rest of those, the teams I just mentioned, especially the ones that have been in finals and won things recently at least, they are, significantly ahead of the competition. So let's dive right into it then. So Jacob L puts this out yesterday, so our latest SEC filing from Activision Blizzard, how they included this particular quote, admitting to concerns over the longevity of the current business model of the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League. Our collaborative arrangements for our professional esports leagues, the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League, continue to face headwinds which are negatively impacting the operations and potentially the longevity of the leagues under the current business model. We continue to work to address these challenges, which could result in significant costs, and such efforts may prove unsuccessful. Now, you could argue this is like standard business stuff. This is what they talk about, but there's also an argument that says if they're saying this stuff publicly, then behind the scenes, it must not be in a particularly good position. Now, I think fundamentally a lot of this is down to the Overwatch League. It's an absolute shambles over there. Something broke down in Activision's relationship with China, and therefore the game isn't even playable in China anymore, but yet they have like Chinese teams in their league, so it simply doesn't even work. I believe they even allowed like teams that didn't even pay the buy-in fee into the Overwatch League because they're just trying desperately to keep it alive, even though it's a complete mess. So look, I know a lot of people said when the CDL formed, there was a lot of criticisms about the franchise model here in esports, the fact that Why is it city-based when it doesn't need to be? All of these legacy brands, the likes of Envoy, rest in peace, OpTic, and so many others, even just 100 Thieves, at the time, they would not be able to use any of their brand name in their brand. Thankfully, we've got OpTic back, FaZe managed to find a way around it and all this stuff, and nowadays it's not too bad. Thieves are still a thing and all this. But ideally, it doesn't even need to be city-based. It doesn't even make sense being city-based in the first place to me, because half of these cities don't even get events. There's fans in these cities. Their teams don't live in the cities. The teams never go to that city to play. It's like, what is even the point? They're trying to replicate the sports model, right? And they're trying to have these massive franchise buy-in fees, but fundamentally, it's Activision and Blizzard that own the league, and therefore they own the rights to things. They make the calls on what the deals are, you know, all the media rights revenues, if there are any. Let's say they sign a YouTube deal next year. How much of that actually filters down to the team? Probably not much, because Activision will take most of it, right? So this is the issues that you have to navigate through, and so many of us said, right, 25 million, it just didn't make any sense. Bobby Kotick's talking to his friends to get them on board, his billionaire sports friends to get them in, and look, it was only a matter of time until things started to crumble to a certain extent, and the way esports is at the moment is not looking so good. Now, whether this means the CDL is going to collapse, I think is an entirely different conversation, because there's an argument to say there needs to be some restructuring done of the way this works. Either lower the fees these teams have got to pay to enter, either allow teams to branch out beyond their specific territory, because, I mean, look, they're trying to make efforts to address these challenges, they say, and are they just going to shut down the league? I don't think that's going to be the case, but it might happen at some point in the future, right? We can't guarantee it. Now, you've got to also realize that when people are commenting on this, there's always certain points and agendas, right? If people from the league are talking about it, there's always going to be some positive spin on that, because, you know, it's in their interest for the league to continue, right? So Bryce says, you know, we're good. And I agree with him, right? Bryce, as he says, the CDL is trending in the right direction. This is probably the most promising the CDL has looked in the last 4 years, right? We're now on Twitch. We've got growth in new sponsors coming in. The viewership is going up. The co-streams, all this stuff. Like, you know, the fans are here. The players are here. But yet, you know, they can't figure out a way to make it work financially, which is where restructuring and the like will probably need to be done. So this is the debate that's being had. Will the CWL come back? And I think this is the key thing to notice, that if the Call of Duty League was to collapse for whatever reason, the CWL isn't just necessarily going to come back. I don't think it's that simple. I don't know, Jacob L makes this point that, you know, okay, the CDL dies, the CWL comes back and it's all great again, we get open events, it's all back to how it was. Is that the case? I don't think Activision would do that personally. Okay, they may support it, it may happen. I'm sure they realize there is some advantage to be had from Call of Duty Esports existing, but, you know, would they go full Nintendo and say, oh, you know, no one's ever going to be able to run an event again with our game? Like, we're not going to allow it to happen. Like, you know, who knows what they're going to do? If the CDL fails and they've got to take that on the chin, which, you know, obviously bad decisions on many different parties that have been involved to get us to this point, are they just going to bring back what it was before? Not necessarily. Okay, maybe that's the best case scenario, but still, it's far from a guarantee. Now, you know, as Method says, and TJ is having a bit of a reply about it as well, that there's always going to be some style league. You know, if the CDL were to die, then Esports Engine takes control. Adam Apicella comes back in. Okay, he's not even working there anymore, but you know what I mean. Old MLG type crew, CWL League returns, but you know, as I say, it's far from guaranteed. And Adam Apicella even talks about this and says to Jacob L that this is a bad read. COD Esports isn't going anywhere, it's growing, and even if the CDL goes away, Activision will certainly continue to support the growth of esports. Now, you know, what does that mean with a Microsoft ownership? Nobody really knows the answer to this, right? It's all kind of assumptions, it's all questions, but I did want to share the perspective here of, you know, Hecz and Scump on this one, and Methods as well. And basically, you know, Hecz is very clear in his opinion here that the city-based idea doesn't work. They don't even go on to mention the amount of money involved, but, you know, that's another piece of the puzzle here.
This is what I propose that happens. But who's going to listen to me? This is what I propose happens. There's a deal that gets struck between Adam Apicella where he can take back MLG, and then he can go do his... Now that he's free to do more stuff, all right, which negatively impacting the operations and potentially the longevity of the leagues under the current business model.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa.
Yo, Wamps with a 5. Thank you.
That's
Continue.
surprising to hear. We continue to work to address these challenges, which could result in significant costs, and such efforts may prove unsuccessful.
So, obviously, you're the business mastermind behind OpTic. You know?
Yeah.
So, let's hear your take on that statement.
You know what, Seth? I, for one, have no statement to make on that. You're
staying hands off?
Listen, it's not.
You're not getting in that shit?
I'm not the one that said it. That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to go down that rabbit hole?
I think the city-based model only makes sense when you actually have like the hometown event once a year, if that. Like for example, like let's say.
Well, there's a lot of cities that get like passed up on too. Like there's not an event in every city, which kind of
exactly. So at that point, like the original model was like a home series in each city.
Yeah.
And now, if that's not the model, city-based doesn't make sense.
I'm
and
actually
also $25 million to buy into this league is crazy.
City-based model doesn't make sense. What does that mean?
Has there been a city there's never been an event at? Like one of the CDL cities? Has there ever been a city that we haven't been to?
One, Chicago.
No, we've
that
been
was because
Atlanta.
of COVID.
Well, Atlanta was the very.
Atlanta, we
That was
did
like
Atlanta.
the very first.
Yeah, but it wasn't like.
But that was in 2019.
Seattle,
Florida.
Seattle didn't do one.
Florida
Florida didn't do one.
London.
Florida. Well,
London did one. We
they?
won that. Paris was never one in Paris.
I mean, yeah. So it's like, you know, they gotta show love to the other cities at least a little bit. I mean, Paris isn't a thing anymore though. Now it's Vegas.
What I would like
they just don't want to pay that money, right?
What I would like to have the opportunity to do is to allow us to throw the event wherever we want. Okay, I don't want Texas is awesome. We kill it every single time, but I think that we could also kill it in Dubai, Tokyo, Mexico City.
And Hecz also tweets out at basically the exactly same time, just as soon as this report goes out. So either he's just making a comment on one of his favorite TV shows, or he's tweeting out a gift that says, I'm not the kind of person to say I told you so, but I told you so, right? So, you know, this is where you've got to wonder what Hex's true opinion is. And you've also got to realize, right, that Hecz, from his perspective, if the CDL were to go away and the CWL to come back, like he probably, an OpTic, given they command most of the fan base, they probably, you know, stand to gain more in that scenario than they do in the CDL side. So everyone's got their own kind of, you know, agenda at play here in terms of what they want to happen, what they think should happen, and therefore what their opinions on things are. You know, from my perspective, like if the CDL collapses, then I don't know what the future of Call of Duty Esports is. We have no idea. So I guess it's in my best interest for it to continue. And I think that genuinely, as Bryce said, it's maybe in the best spot it's been in terms of growth potential, fans, viewership, but it's like they've got to figure out how this works, because as Adam Adama here says from Toronto Ultra, if we knew 5, 6, 7 years ago what we know now, what would we do differently? How would we improve the ecosystem? And I'm sure there's many ways that they can try and do that, and doing that while the Call of Duty League still exists in some form or another is probably the way to do it. But yeah, fundamentally, the idea of getting these organizations, especially the endemic ones, to create entirely new brands, and most of those brands haven't really gained any traction over the last few years anyway, so plenty of problems in this league, and it's just interesting that Activision are mentioning specifically that there are some things they've got to work out here. And we know that, I believe we know that there's a meeting coming up in Vegas at the World Championship with all the owners. I think Hecz has mentioned it before, that they will discuss the future there. So yeah, they're going to have to work something out, because as it currently is, it's obviously not sustainable. And I think we knew that from the start, to be perfectly honest. So they're going to have to make changes. I kind of hope the CDL can stay around, but questions around the buy-in fee, questions around the territories will have to be raised, I think, in order for this to get to where we might want it to go. But tweet your thoughts on that in the comment section below. I'm sure that's a story that's going to keep on going over the coming days and weeks. Quickly then on the matches for tonight. Rokkr played 2 games, Ravens and Breach. I would say that they should be marginal favourites in both series. Okay, they should be London for sure. Breach, I'm going to take Rokkr 3-2, but I think it's going to be a difficult one, that one. Then Vegas Subliners. I don't know, man. Subliners always seem to destroy Vegas every time. I feel like Vegas' chance was yesterday against OpTic. Today, I think they're going to have a harder time. Hopefully they can come in with the fire, but I just don't really see it happening. And then Ultra Thieves, banger series to close out the day here. I think I'm going to lean the way of Thieves here, maybe a 3-2 Thieves victory. I feel like they're just too good all across the board right now, but Ultra definitely looked impressive yesterday against the Seattle Surge. But very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.